The math on content marketing without AI genuinely does not work for a one person business. You're trying to do the writing, the strategy, the scheduling, the repurposing, and you still have actual clients to serve. That economics just doesn't work out. But with AI, it is literally like having a full time assistant, but you have to train it right and you still have to supervise. I'm Laura, and by the end of this video, you're going to have everything you need to do three things. First, set up your first AI marketing assistant that has enough context about you and your business to actually do real work. Then, second, a content system you can use to batch all of your content in as little as 1 day a month. And then finally, my POV framework that makes every piece of content you produce work harder for you because it's intentionally built to build trust and showcase your experience. So, one of my clients, I'll call her G, she's a team building consultant and she gets most of her business through referrals, but a lot of them are hit and miss. So she wanted to get her ideas out there so people would have a better understanding about her approach, but she could never do it consistently enough to actually generate leads, right? So what we did was we locked in her topics based on my POV framework, and then we built her an AI marketing assistant. And so she went from a now and then newsletter to showing up every single week, 6 inbound leads and 2 new clients in 6 weeks. Now, if you've tried content marketing before and you've given up, I want to talk to you for a second because I already know what happened. So, you decided to get serious about content. You blocked off a few non billable hours, like on Sunday, and you started and restarted because you didn't know what to write or where you really wanted to go with it. And then when you did push something out, you got something published, crickets, right? So you figure, what's the point? And then you get a new client and you put it on hold again. So why should you bother getting started with content strategy now versus when you get a chance or next month or next year? Look, I'm sure you know we've got a lot of different moving parts in the macro environment right now. All right, first there's AI powered search. So ChatGPT, Perplexity, Google's AI overviews. These are already reshaping how people find experts. These systems pull from published content. So if you're not publishing, you're invisible to an entire layer of discovery that's growing every single month. Meanwhile, your competitors, the other people who do what you do, and some of them obviously have less experience than you do, they're publishing and they're building up a content base that's going to position them for the AI engines as the go to expert in the space. You've spent years building expertise that deserves to be noticed. This is how you make that happen without sacrificing your weekends or your integrity or the client work that actually pays the bills. I think of using AI as 10, 80, 10. So 10% you on the front end, that's your ideas, your opinions, the stories, the things only you can bring, right? Then 80% AI in the middle. It's going to organize everything, make the draft, format it, turn your thinking into actual content, right? And then 10% you again before you hit publish. This is cleaning it up and adding the details that make it yours. Now, here's why this matters. The reason most AI content sounds like everybody else is that most people don't train it. And then they skip that 10% on the front end. They go straight into Chat or Claude and they say, write me a LinkedIn post about leadership. And what they get back sounds like it was written by a committee, like straight from the center of the bell curve. And as I'm sure you figured out for yourself, if you skip that last 10%, well, you can just smell the AI from a mile away. But when you do all three, train it and co create with it using 1080/10, well, now you actually have content you can use in an amount of time that's actually reasonable for someone who has a solo business. So here's how you get started. Step one is configure the AI. So this is the practical setup. I recommend using Claude. You use it right in your browser, just like ChatGPT. The paid plan is 20 bucks a month right now, which is probably all you'll ever need. All right, so once you've signed in Claude, you create a project. So Claude's projects feature lets you attach files that it uses as context every time you write. And so the quick start, if you want to go right now, is to add a 4 section brand voice file. And this is going to cover your ideal client or audience, write your voice, which is how you write or talk, your business and what you sell. And then finally, the fourth section, and this is important, are the do's and don'ts, and heavily towards the don'ts. So, in addition to adding your voice, this is the single biggest factor in getting the output to sound more human. Now, obviously, you can customize this a lot further, but to get started, this four-section document is really all you need. So, step two of creating consistent content and not getting overwhelmed with it all is to make some structural decisions. So, we're going to pick our content types and our timing. We're going to put some infrastructure behind this. So, you need one long form platform. This could be a blog, it could be an email newsletter, it could be a newsletter you publish on LinkedIn or Substack or Medium. Start with one, not all three. Now, one aside I want you to take into consideration is I'd encourage you to figure out how to make at least some of your long form content publicly available, because that's what's going to give the AI search platforms, chat, Perplexity, Google AI overviews, right? It's going to give them something to work with when they're recommending experts. The second decision is to decide your frequency. So, look, if you're in a less competitive niche, once a month is probably fine. Really, really, really. But if you're in a crowded niche and there's a lot of competition and you want inbound leads, we're probably talking about one piece of long form content once a week. And then we need to make a decision about short form platforms, about social media. So, LinkedIn is where most consultants and service providers need to be, but you know where your people are. If they're on Instagram, go to Instagram. If they're on Threads, go to Threads. Okay. So, if you just want to stay top of mind with your referral network, with your existing connections, one or two posts a week is going to be fine. But if you're trying to attract inbound people who don't know you, then we're really talking about 3 to 5 posts a week. But stay with me here because you're going to write once and post all week. The AI marketing assistant is going to help you turn that newsletter or post you wrote into social media so you don't have to do extra work, right? A key insight extracted from that becomes a LinkedIn post. The framework that you talked about, that becomes the visual. Okay, so now we have a trained helper, your AI marketing assistant that has that four-part document, okay? And a plan. But how do we make absolutely sure that you're creating the right kind of content that gets you found and brings in the kind of clients that you actually want to work with? So, step three of this strategy is my POV or point of view framework. I developed this specifically for people who sell expertise and want their content to actually showcase it. So, there's three different types of content that attract clients, and they work individually, or you can mix and match them. They're kind of like Legos. So, content type number one is your system. In the POV framework, your method is your marketing. If you've been doing your thing for 20 years, whether you're a coach or a consultant or a copywriter, whatever, you have a process, even if you've never written it down. So, making that process visible, giving it a name or a structure, this is the most powerful thing you can do for your marketing. Content type number two is strategic opinions. Now, this is the one that kind of scares people, but it's also the one that gets you noticed the fastest. So ask yourself, what do you believe in your area of business that other people in your field get wrong? What trends are overhyped? What advice do you see everywhere that actually backfires? Look, strong opinions filter for the right clients. The people who agree with you are going to trust you faster, and the people who don't, they weren't going to be good clients for you anyway. And here's the bonus, this is great AI search juice. So when ChatGPT or Perplexity recommends an expert, they're not pulling from people who say the same thing as everyone else. They pull from people with a clear, distinctive point of view. And content type three is stories. So when you talk about the moment something clicked, or that time everything went sideways, or even why you do what you do, right? Stories create emotional connection with potential clients and they build trust faster than anything else. So when you put these three content types together, systems, strategic stances, and stories, that's why the circles overlap. This is specific and it naturally differentiates you. Plus, the output sounds like you because the input is something that was uniquely yours to begin with. Now, in this video, I talked about creating your brand voice document for your AI assistant, and I also talked about POV content, but I didn't dive into the exact how to's for either one. So, if you want to learn more, these are the videos you need to watch next.